Hi everyone, thanks for joining me in part 3 of the PBR Painter version 2.0 tutorial series. So this is a super exciting video because in this video I'm going to be talking about the new layer mask system, which is brand new, as I said in the last video, for version 2.0, and there's super cool stuff you can do with that, as you'll see in a minute. And I'm going to go through that in detail today, so hopefully this video is a good reference if you want to add a mask to your layer. Before I do that, I just realized as I was watching through the previous video that if you're brand new to PBR Painter, you may be kind of a bit confused why you're seeing a red color over here and you're getting a kind of a whitish color over here. So may seem like it looks like a bug. It's not a bug. What's actually happening is that I've selected the constant option for albedo, and again, I'll go through this later what this is actually meaning, but basically what I'm doing is I've selected to use a constant albedo across the entire layer, and therefore it's just using the alpha information from this. It's not using the color, and it lets me basically select whatever constant color I want. If I wanted to use the color from this, I can choose painted, and then as you can see, it actually picks up the exact color from what's going on over here. So I just wanted to clarify that, just in case you were thinking that was a bit strange and you didn't know what was going on. So back to the point of this video. Layer masks. So as I said, brand new to 2.0 is the option to create very interesting and cool masks using a new mask system, and I'm going to show you that right now. So the first thing you do when you want to add a mask, so these are masks in addition to kind of the painted mask that you've got over here. So if you want to have, say, specific effects like edge wear or grunge or whatever you're kind of trying to paint on as a layer, you can take advantage of this layer mask system to do that. So by clicking add a new mask, you will get this option to pick a type, and there are a bunch of different types, and also within each type you have subtypes which you can select, as I will go through in a second. But for now I'm just going to pick one. So alpha map I'm not going to choose. That's basically where you're importing a pre-made mask. I might pick procedural because it's kind of, actually I'll pick gradient for a start because it's kind of easy to kind of get your head around what's happening. So I'm going to pick gradient, I'm going to click OK, and you're going to get all this stuff that pops up, which is confusing at first, but I promise I'll go through it and I'll explain exactly what's going on and what it all means. So this box here is actually very similar to this box in the sense that it is a layer system, but it's a layer system within your layer, and it's a layer system for creating a mask. And the way it's going to work is you're going to combine various different masks to get the exact mask effect that you want. So in terms of what's available in terms of the buttons, the first thing you'll find is a preview mask stack on mesh. So what you do, if you click that, all it's going to do is it's going to preview whatever is going on here on your mesh, and that way you can kind of visualize your mask as you're making it. I might just drag this across because I don't need this right now. And that's really useful because obviously you can tune up all your different masks that you've got in here, and you can get your final result visualized on your mesh over here. Everything in here is basically replicated from what is in here, so I don't really have to go through this. You've got add new mask, delete mask, move them up or down, duplicate, and then merge all together. The next thing you have is a preview selected mask on mesh, and right now that is going to look exactly the same as this because I only have one mask. But basically this lets you preview whichever one you have selected as opposed to previewing the final kind of result of your layered masks. And that'll become clearer as I add some more masks later. So the next set of options here in between this and the color ramps is going to be specific to whatever mask you've got. So in this case I'm using a gradient mask, and therefore it's asking for a type. So right now it's linear, which basically just means it's going to create this kind of straight line effect or a straight kind of plane that it's using to do the masking. And later you'll see that I can adjust that, but I can change to things like spherical, and you can kind of move it around. You can do diagonal. It's not too clear what that looks like, but yeah, these are the normal sort of options that you get when you create a gradient mask via the node setup. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just do linear just to make it simple. The next thing you'll note is that there's two different color ramps. So selected mask color ramp, as the name suggests, is a color ramp that's specific to whatever mask you have selected in here. So all it's going to do is it's just going to kind of apply a color ramp to that output that you're seeing over here, and it's just going to apply it to the mask that you have selected. Again, if I change the next color ramp, which is the mask stack color ramp, it's going to do the exact same thing, because again we only have one mask, so therefore you're not seeing a difference. But this color ramp is basically for controlling, separately to this one, it's for controlling the output of all your different masks. And as I'll go through later, that's really important that you have both of these, because they actually they have different purposes and you need both to do certain things. Final thing here, you'll see for pretty much I think every mask you have this option of what mapping you want to use. So don't think it's not going to make much sense, or it's not going to look very obvious for a gradient, but basically it's just creating the it's just adjusting the scale, the location, and the rotation. So I can adjust the rotation. You can get a sense of what's happening. It's kind of rotating about the different axes. But this is your standard kind of mapping setup here that you'll be familiar with if you've used nodes before. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you just kind of an example of what you can do. So I might just move this across. So I'm moving the location in the X to a roughly center. Actually, I might move it a bit back a bit. And so I'm going to say, okay, I'm happy with that mask. I'm not going to change anything else right now. I might maybe change the color ramp a bit to make it a bit brighter. And I'm going to add a new mask, and this time I'm going to add a procedural mask. Now again, everything up here is the same, so you can do all the normal stuff. You will notice that there's a new line that's added here, and the reason that this is here now is because this controls how this mask is blended with this mask. So for the bottom mask in the stack, there's no blending going on because it's kind of the first one, so you don't get those options. But now I can control however I want to blend these two masks together. By default, it's mix, but you can change that to multiply. You can do whatever you want in here. You can do add, and as you'll see, it kind of has a different effect. You can do, if you do subtract, you kind of subtracting it from that one, which is kind of cool in certain situations. Oops. But for now, I'm just going to leave it on mix, and you can change the blend factor. So if you go 0, it's all gradient. If you go 1, it's all procedural. But again, I'm going to leave it on 0.5 just for now to demonstrate it. So hopefully as I'm going through this, you can kind of get a sense of how much you can actually do with this layered system. So you have all these different mask types, and you can combine them in all sorts of different ways. So you can really create awesome different masks for creating really cool different materials and getting awesome effects in terms of edge effects, grunge, as I said, wear and tear, different, whatever you want to show. But anyway, so again, I have the same option. So now I'm going to demonstrate this. So if I click preview selected mask, as you can see, all it does is it just previews whatever you've got selected, as opposed to previewing everything combined. The next thing you'll note, so as I said, everything in here is dependent on the type of mask you have. So I've got a procedural mask, which means that I can adjust all of these specific things. So for example, I can change the scale of it. I can change the detail. This is basically specific to noise. I can change the dimensions. I can change the type of procedural. So right now you have the option of 4 different types. So you can do noise, Musgrave, Voronoi, or wave. So for example, if I did Voronoi, you get kind of that effect. And then you get all the different properties that you'd be familiar with if you've used these textures as nodes. So this is basically a copy of the node for each of these different procedural textures. You'll notice on the right here you have a couple of new buttons. These are buttons that you'll see all throughout the add-on, and whenever you're using a procedural texture, you can click the copy button on here and go OK. And then any other area in the add-on, if you want to paste the exact same setup, you can click the paste. And that's really useful. You can copy paste between different layers, so you can kind of copy one procedural setup from one place to another. You can copy to different channels, as I'll go through later. So you'll definitely probably use this a lot. Other than that, so that's everything associated with that, the procedural. I might actually put this back onto noise for now. And now I'll kind of demonstrate the difference between this and this. So if I change the mask color ramp for the procedural, as you can see, it's basically just affecting the procedural mask. So in this case, it's just getting rid of it. But if I change the mask stack color ramp, it's going to affect all of this together. So as you can see, if I do that, now it's actually affecting the gradient and the procedural because it's combining the two before it uses the color ramp. So I really like the combination of gradient with some other masks because you can get all sorts of cool things. It's a bunch of different applications for this type of look, and obviously you can modify that however you want. You can scale the procedurals in the X if you want to kind of get some cool effects if you want to do something like that. Looks kind of fun. And yeah, so that's basically it for that sort of setup. So again, you can add a bunch of different masks. That was the procedural. I showed you gradient. You can do geometric. So under geometric, you can do a bunch of different options in here. So you have a couple of different options for curvature. So this is kind of the pointiness. So that's going to isolate edges. And there's different methods for doing that. So you can play around with those. They both require cycles to use. But there is a workaround to get it into Eevee, which I'll probably not go through in this video, but I will be posting a video on how to do that later. So keep an eye out for that. You can also choose the normal direction. So if I just preview the selected for a second, as you can see, you can pick the normal direction, then you can kind of control it with this little tool here, which is really cool. And then if you preview the whole thing, as you can see, it's applying all those masks together. So you're just getting the normals that are facing up. And again, if you change the normal direction color ramp, you can do all sorts of things with that, or you can change the whole thing. I'm not going to go through that anymore. I think I just saw a bug that says mask mapping. There isn't actually any mapping associated with this, so that shouldn't say that, but I can clear that up later. And what else is there? So that's geometric. You have normal direction. You have another one called Displacement Threshold, and kind of a bit more complicated. I can't really go through that now, but basically what that's going to do is it's going to take displacement from your previous masks and threshold that according to your height of the texture. But again, I'm not going to go into that now. I'll show you that in a different video later. The final one you can do is a alpha map, and I'm not going to demonstrate this, but basically when you do alpha map, as you can see, it all went black, and that's because I have nothing imported. And the way to use that is just to import whatever you want. So for example, if you have a really nice, say, scratches image, so you have a map that's kind of that you use for adding scratches to your texture, then you can import that here, and then you can just add it into the mask stack. So that's really powerful in what you can do with that, because you can kind of incorporate your own pre-made alpha maps into the mask stack and then modify them with these different masks here. So one thing that's really cool you can do with that is you can have, if you have like a logo or something that you have as an alpha map, then you can import that, and then you can add a procedural mask, and you can kind of blur or add noise to kind of the outline of your logo and all sorts of things like that, which is really cool. And as I said, again, I'm going to be making all sorts of videos that demonstrate these things specifically, but just for now, know that you can do that, and you can add that sort of mask if you want. So I'm going to leave it like that for no particular reason, and I'm going to turn that off. And that's almost it for this video, but just very quickly, I'm just going to show you what that looks like when you actually apply it with the channel. So I'm going to turn on the albedo, and I'm going to add maybe just a constant color, and I'm going to hit the fill tool, and I'm going to fill it. And what you can see is now it's just literally masking that area, and it's just letting me paint only on that area. I'll change this to constant so I can adjust it. And therefore I'm just painting on this particular area. That's defined by this mask stack. And again, I can add different effects. So I can add metallic if I want. I can add roughness, and I can even add normals and give it a constant bump. Don't worry about what I'm doing here. I'm going to go through this later. I'm just kind of demonstrating it for now, and that'll kind of bump it up. Looks a bit funny because it's kind of a weird thing to do, but you can do procedural normals if you want. But yeah, again, I'm going to go through this later, so don't stress too much about this. But that's basically it for the video, because I just wanted to show you the masks. And in the next few videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus specifically now on the different layer types. So just to remind you, you have multi-channel, single channel, and custom. And I'm going to go through exactly how to use each of those and all of the different options that are available for those. So up next is multi-channel, and that's going to probably be a pretty long video, because as I said earlier in a previous video, that is pretty much the main type of channel that you're going to use, the main type of layer that you're going to use. So I'm going to spend a lot of time explaining that. But anyway, I'll leave it there. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.